Assembly stands for the reading of the Gospel. Gospel lesson for this, the fifth Sunday of Easter, is taken from John chapter 15.
Glory to you, Lord.
Jesus said, "I am the true vine, and my Father is the vine grower. He removes every branch in me that bears no fruit. Every branch that bears fruit, he prunes, to make it bear more fruit. You have already been cleansed by the word that I have spoken to you. Abide in me, as I abide in you. Just as the branch cannot bear much fruit by itself unless it abides in the vine, neither can you unless you abide in me. I am the vine, you are the branches. Those who abide in me and I in them bear much fruit, because apart from me you can do nothing. Whoever does not abide in me is thrown away like a branch and withers. Such branches are gathered and thrown into the fire and burned. But if you abide in me, and my words abide in you, ask for whatever you wish, and it will be done for you. My Father is glorified by this, that you bear much fruit and become my disciples. But as the Father has loved me, so I have loved you. Abide in my love." This is the gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Christ.
Christ is risen.
He is risen indeed. Hallelujah.
Brothers and sisters, grace to you and peace in the name of the risen Christ. Amen. So, gardening. Who here is a gardener, who has done gardening, attended to plants, those kinds of things, right? Yeah, whether you do it now or in the past. That's actually quite a few, right? There are quite a few of you. So, what is pruning? Explain pruning. Yeah, Don.
You cut the branch so you keep a certain height.
Sure.
That branch will split into two.
Sure. Right. You cut something back, right? Sometimes it's something that's dead, right? So sometimes it's actually a part of the plant that's alive. But you cut it back in order that the plant can continue to grow and have a better and more full life, right? That's pruning. That's pruning. And as I was reading the gospel text for this Sunday, there are two things really that stood out to me and stuck with me throughout the course of the week. And one of them was this idea of pruning. And Jesus says, "I am the vine, you are the branches." Well, if we are the branches, right, then that means that we must be pruned. Now, that doesn't mean that we're, entirely cut off and thrown away, right? But there are parts of us that need to be cut back. Maybe parts that are dead, maybe sometimes parts that are alive, in order that we can have a better and more full life. And so that begs the question for me, what are the parts of your life that need to be pruned? Just sit with that for a moment. Maybe you're in a lot of different activities. You're always on the go, constantly going here and there, always working on that to-do list that never seems to go away and only gets longer. And you're constantly stressed and overwhelmed by the things, the tasks at hand, the things that you need to stay on top of. And so maybe part of what needs to be pruned is some of the things that you are doing so that you can have more energy and more fully enjoy the things that you are doing. Or maybe it's behaviors or habits that aren't life-giving, that we need to give up. We all probably have some of those. Or maybe it's thoughts, right? Some thoughts and negative self-talk, things that we tell ourselves that are constantly, you are not good enough, I'm not good enough about this, I'm not good enough in how I look, I'm not good enough at this, I'm not good enough at that. And maybe we need to have those thoughts pruned away. Or maybe there's thoughts about other people that aren't life-giving. Or maybe there are relationships in our lives even that need to be pruned to let go of. Relationships that aren't life-giving. Especially relationships that might potentially be abusive, that we need to get out of in order to have a better and more full life. What are the parts of your life that need to be pruned? And I think this is a question that is appropriate not only for us to ask of ourselves individually, but also for us to ask of ourselves together as a community of faith. What are the parts of our life together as a community of faith that need to be pruned? Right? Sure, maybe it's a program, right? Something that needs to go in order for us to have room to grow in a new way. Maybe it's a part of our structure and how we manage ourselves as an institution that needs to be updated. Maybe it's a pattern that we've gotten into that is kind of just keeping us in the same rut and not allowing us to grow. Or maybe it's things that we think, assumptions that we are making about what it means to be the church that need to be pruned right now. What are the parts of our life together as a community of faith that need to be pruned? And whether you're asking that question of yourself individually or of our life together as a community of faith, I don't necessarily have specific answers to that question. But I think that the gospel lesson provides us not only with the opportunity to ask those questions, but it shows us the necessity of asking those questions. What is it in your life that needs to be pruned? What is it in our life together as a community of faith that needs to be pruned? There was one thing that caught my attention and really stuck with me from the gospel lesson this morning. The other thing that stuck with me was the word abide. It comes back again and again throughout the course of the gospel, right? Abide in me as I abide in you, just as a branch cannot bear much fruit by itself unless it abides in the vine. Neither can you unless you abide in me, right? Those who abide in me and I in them bear much fruit. Whoever does not abide in me is thrown away like a branch and withers. If you abide in me and my words abide in you, ask for whatever you wish, it'll be done for you, right? And as the Father has loved me, so I have loved you. Abide in my love. Abide, 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 abide. It comes back again and again and again and again. But really, what does it mean? What does it mean to abide? If you were going to explain what it means to abide in somebody, what would you say?
Be part of their life.
Be part of their life? Okay, yeah, sure.
Believe.
Believe? Okay. What else? Abiding. Honor? Okay, to honor them. Okay. Yeah, abiding, literally, right? In addition to those things, right? To share in life, right? To honor, right? To believe, right? In addition to those things, right? Abiding literally means to stay, to remain, right? It doesn't matter really what kind of synonym or the way that we want to try to explain it. Abiding, what it really means to abide in Jesus, right? Seems to remain this abstract idea, right, that is hard for us to grasp in a concrete way. What does it mean to abide in Jesus? And this is, again, where I think the image of the branch and the vine comes in handy. Because the branch abides in the vine. It is connected to the vine in a way that is not just supportive, but that gives it life. And so in the same way, when we abide in Jesus, we are connected to Jesus in a way that doesn't just support us, but that gives us life. In the same way that water comes from the root and through the vine and into the branch, carrying the nutrients from the soil so that the branch can live, right, and have life. In the same way, the life of God, the love of God, flow through Jesus the vine to us so that we also might have life. Abiding in Jesus means allowing that love, that life of God that is already freely given to us, to allow that life, that love, to flow into our lives. Abiding in Jesus means allowing that love of God to flow into your life. The love of God that claims you as a beloved child. The love of God that says your addiction can be fought. The love of God that says cancer will not be the end of your story. The love of God that enters into times of anxiety and speaks a word of peace. You do not need to be afraid. The love of God that enters into moments of depression and says, no, you are not worthless, but your worth is beyond measure. You, all of you, exactly as you are. You are loved. You are accepted. You are good, just as you are. The love of God that flows into moments of grief for you, where you are grieving or where you feel lost and alone, and sits with you in the midst of those moments. This is the love of God that is given to you freely. And we know and can trust this love of God, and that the love of God is given to us in these ways, because the love that is given to you is the love of the crucified one, who entered himself into the deepest, darkest depths of human experience, so that when you yourself are in the midst of those situations or experiences, you might know that God is with you, and that in those moments you are loved. It is not just the love of the crucified one that is given to us, because Christ is risen.
He is risen indeed. Hallelujah.
Christ, the one who was crucified, has been raised from the dead to new life. And it is the love of the risen one that is given to you, so that when you are in the midst of fear, or anger, or doubt, or despair, or depression, or loneliness, or struggle, or pain, that not only in those moments is God with you, but God will walk with you out of those moments and situations. The love of the risen one is given to you so that those moments of struggle will not be the end of your story. The love of the risen one is given to you so that you can walk out of the struggle. The love of the risen one is given to you so that you can move from the darkness into the light, from death into life. The love of the risen one is given to you so that there will be a day when God will wipe away every tear from your eyes. Abiding in Jesus means allowing the life, the love of the crucified and risen one to flow into your life. And going back to the image of the vine and the branch, right? It is not just that this branch is connected to the vine, right? But the very life, the whole life of the branch depends on the vine. If the branch is cut off, it's going to die. Every aspect of the life of the branch depends on the vine. The branch is rooted in the vine. And in the same way, when we abide in Jesus, every aspect of our lives should be rooted in Jesus, or the love of God that we have in Jesus Christ. Now, that doesn't mean that you have to live a perfect life, an exemplary life, and be totally pure and pious and perfect, right? That's not what that means. What that means, what are your gifts? What are your talents? What are your passions? Are you using your gifts and talents to the best of your ability? Are you doing what you are passionate about? If you are a doctor, are you being the best doctor that you can be? If you are a teacher, are you being a teacher, the best teacher that you can be? If you are a farmer, are you being the best farmer that you can be? And within your relationships, are you being the best mother or father, the best son or daughter, the best brother or sister, the best friend that you can be? Or with your resources, your time, your money, your possessions, are you managing those things in a way that gives life, not just for you, but for other people? Are you using your resources, your time, your talents, your possessions, in a way that gives glory to God? But when we do those things, then those aspects of our lives are rooted in Jesus. And every aspect of our lives is to be rooted in Jesus. Right? Not just when we come to church on a Sunday morning, but every aspect of our lives is to be rooted in Jesus. And so if there is something that you are thinking or saying or doing that is not rooted in Jesus, then you probably shouldn't be doing it, and maybe that is something that needs to be pruned. And in the same way that every aspect of our lives as individuals should be rooted in Jesus, so too should every aspect of our life together as a community of faith be rooted in Jesus. So if there is something that we are thinking or saying or doing as a community of faith that is not rooted in Jesus, then we shouldn't be doing it. And maybe that is something that needs to be pruned. What is it in your life that needs to be pruned? What is it in our life together as a community of faith that needs to be pruned? Abiding in Jesus means allowing the love of the crucified and risen one to flow into your life, so that your whole life and our whole life together as a community of faith is rooted in Jesus. Christ is risen.
He is risen indeed. Hallelujah.
Brothers and sisters, the peace of the risen Christ is yours. The life of the risen Christ is yours. The love of the risen Christ is yours. Abide in that love, and the grace of God, which surpasses all human understanding, will keep your hearts and minds and your whole lives rooted in Christ Jesus. Amen.